Hello, this week's notes we're going to be looking at ancient India. We're going to look at what's called the Indus River Valley Civilization. And we're also going to look at the Gupta Dynasty. So this deals with standard 613 and 633. The flag you see here in the middle is the flag of the modern day India. And what you see in the middle is the it's a circle. It deals with the Dharma law, and it's a circle that represents Buddhism. So ancient history, brief history. Farmers moved from Iran to the Indus River Valley civilization 3,500 BC. The Indus River flooded, leaving behind silt to help fertilize the land for farming. The one thing about the Indus River, it is a very violent river. It's not kind and benevolent, as John Green would say, like the Nile. It can be a very dangerous river when it floods. The geography. The Indus River, basically it divides Pakistan and India. India is what we call part of a subcontinent. If you look below in the image, you'll notice that India is got like a orangish peach kind of color. And if you'll notice, it's part of Asia, but it's a large part of Asia, so we call it a subcontinent. It is divided by the Himalayan mountains, and they separate Asia from India, and the Himalayan mountains are a natural barrier, and they provide protection for the people of India. Geography continued. One thing that the people of India experience are what called monsoons, and there's two kinds. You have ones in the summer. They blow off the ocean, and they cause heavy rains and floods. But now the floods also bring silt. In the wintertime, you have monsoon winds that blow down from the Himalayan mountains. They create warm, dry winters. So you have two types of winds, and they're called monsoon winds. Okay, who has lived in the Indus River Valley for India? First of all, you had the people of Harappa in Mohenjo-daro. They were the first people to live there. They built their streets at right angles, like you see at the math angle at the bottom. They had indoor plumbing, and they had sewers, which was very rare for ancient civilizations. The people of Mesopotamia in India, or sorry, people of Mesopotamia in Egypt would not have had indoor plumbing and sewers. They had wells for drinking water, so they had fresh water. They built citadels, which are fortresses built on a hill for protection. And they developed a writing system, but to this day we have never found a Rosetta Stone, so we cannot translate it, so we're not sure what their writing system means. The next group of people who lived there were called the Aryans. They were originally nomads. They moved from place to place, and they were warriors. And they developed a language called Sanskrit. You can see an example of Sanskrit here on the bottom, the different symbols that stand for A, B, C, and D. The written language, again, is Sanskrit. First, it was only spoken. It was passed down by word of mouth. Eventually, people developed symbols and started to write it down so they could keep records, they could record history, keep business transactions. Today, Sanskrit is no longer spoken, but many South Asian languages have their roots in Sanskrit. The government. The government in Harappa is they had kings and strong central governments. So a very powerful king that read over the government. But again, since we cannot read their written language, we're not exactly sure. When the Aryans came, there was no single ruling authority. Every village had their own leader called a Raja. So you can imagine, instead of having a governor of South Carolina who was a strong central government, every village had a strong leader. Villagers would farm their land for the local Raja, and they used other sections as pastures for their own cows, horses, sheep, and goats. So the Aryans did not have a strong central government. Every town had its own ruler. And then it comes along the Gupta Dynasty, which is really called the Golden Age of India. A dynasty, again, is a set of rulers from the same family. And the Gupta Dynasty is really known for their achievements for India. So the first kind of achievements were in math. They developed the Hindu-Arabic numerals, the numerals we use today. They developed what the concept of what zero means. And they developed algebra, so like x squared plus y equals 7. They also developed medical vaccinations, also called inoculations. Many of us will be getting our flu shots here. We can retrace that back to the ancient people of India. And they developed plastic surgery. Some more achievements: they developed metallurgy. They able to work with metals such as copper and bronze. They used astronomy to discover the stars and planets. They first were discovered the Earth was round and that it orbited around the sun. They also developed what are called epics. These are long poems that end up being stories about a hero. Um, the most famous from India is the Mahabharata. It's a long story that tells us conflict between families. And then you had the Ramayana, which teaches the believers of Hinduism what they must do to become one with God. Trade systems. The people of India traded with Mesopotamia, and you see the ziggurat on the right, and the people of China. And if you look at the map, you see India is in the bottom left corner, and China is in the middle. So they're not that far apart. However, they are divided by the Himalayan mountains. The religion, and we're going to study this more next week, but two of the major world religions both formed in India. The first one is Hinduism. It is a polytheistic religion. They have belief in more than one god. The picture on the bottom left is one of the Hindu gods, and it developed from the Aryan beliefs. Buddhism started as is basically a philosophy, and Buddhism believes that we are all selfish creatures. And because of our selfish desires, because we want the newest Xbox and the newest iPhone, and since we can't get those, we suffer. And the way we end our suffering is to get rid of all our selfish desires, get rid of our wants. But we'll study these more next week. And then the social order. This is probably one of the most important things to understand about India, and we will spend time talking about this. It's called the caste system. The caste system was how India was divided, its social hierarchy. In India, it was very strict. It depending on who you were born to, it depended on what your caste was, and you were not going to move out of your caste. So here are some of the rules. And imagine living in a place like this. You can only eat, you can only live in the neighborhood, and you can only marry people from your caste. If you don't follow the rules, you get kicked out of your caste. So here's the order. At the very top are the Brahmins or the priests. They're at the very top. The next group of people are the Kshatriyas, the warriors, the leaders. Below them, the Vaisyas. These are herders and merchants, farmers and craftspeople. Below them were the Sudras, the people who worked on the farm, the servants and the laborers. And at the very bottom of the social hierarchy are the untouchables. These were people, because of their name, you weren't supposed to touch them. These were people who eat beef because cows are considered sacred. These are butchers because they would kill cows. These are fishermen. These are the people who clean the sewers. And we'll spend more time on that. So these are the notes that deals with ancient India and the Gupta Dynasty.